Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Speak English with Luna. I am so happy you are here today. Truly, you could be doing anything else, but you chose to spend your time with me, and that means the world. Today, we are going to talk about something that sounds a bit strange. We are talking about the lazy habit of fluent speakers. Yes, you heard me right, lazy.
It's a provocative word, isn't it, Luna? Lazy. We are usually told to work harder, to study more, to push ourselves until we are exhausted. But sometimes the secret to speaking English beautifully isn't about working harder. It's about working, well, lazily.
Exactly, David, and I am so glad you're here to help me explain. Everyone, this is David. He has been coaching speakers for over 30 years, and he has a very special way of looking at language. But before we dive into his secrets, I have a little challenge for you, my dear listener.
A challenge? I like the sound of that.
Yes, today's episode is built like a mountain. Right now, we are at the bottom. The English is easy, it's comfortable, it's clear. But as we climb higher, the English is going to get harder. We're going to move from B1 to B2, and by the end, David and I will be speaking at a C1 level, the way native speakers talk when they are deep in conversation.
It might feel a bit fast later on. You might hear words you don't know yet. You might feel a little lost, and that is okay.
It's more than okay. It's the goal. My challenge to you is this. Don't turn off the podcast when it gets difficult. Stay with us, even if you only understand 60% or 40%. Stay until the very last second. If you can do that, you are already training your brain for real-world fluency. Can you do that for me? Can you stay until the end? I think they can, David.
I believe they can too. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Perfect. So let's get started. David, when we say lazy habits, we aren't talking about sleeping all day, are we?
Not at all, Luna. Not at all. We are talking about the efficiency of the human brain.
Before we go any further and the English starts to get a little bit more complex, I want to create a space here where you feel completely safe. Sometimes when we learn a new language, we feel like we're walking on eggshells. We're so afraid of making a mistake or sounding unprofessional that we become very stiff, very rigid. David, you see this a lot in your coaching, don't you?
Oh, all the time, Luna. Students often come to me with their shoulders up to their ears. They are so incredibly tense. They have this idea that to be good at English, they must pronounce every single letter of every single word with absolute perfect precision. But that isn't how humans actually communicate in their natural habitat. In fact, if you speak too perfectly, you actually sound quite robotic, and ironically, it makes you harder to understand for a native speaker.
That is such a good point. I remember when I was first practicing, I was actually terrified of contracting words. I thought saying I am was much better than saying I'm because it sounded more serious or academic, but I realized I was just making myself and my poor jaw so tired.
Exactly. When we talk about the lazy habit, we are really talking about relaxation. I want you, the listener, to take a deep breath right now. Just let it out. You are in a safe place. You don't have to be perfect here. This podcast is a laboratory. It's a playground. We are exploring how to let the language flow through us rather than forcing it out.
I love that. A playground. So as we start to use more complex structures, remember, there is no fail here. There is only practice. If you feel confused, just smile and keep listening. We've got you. All right, we are climbing higher. I can feel the energy shifting. David, let's get into the heart of this lazy habit. When most students hear the word fluent, they imagine someone who speaks fast and uses big intellectual words. But you argue that true fluency, the kind that makes you sound like a native, is actually about choosing the path of least resistance. Can you explain that?
Absolutely, Luna. You see, the human brain is remarkably efficient, or lazy, as we've been calling it. When we speak our native language, we don't try to be difficult. We try to convey the most meaning with the least amount of physical effort. I remember a student I had years ago. His name was Hiro. Hiro was a brilliant engineer. His vocabulary was massive, and his grammar was technically flawless. But when he spoke, he sounded like a metronome. I am going to the store to buy some bread.
Oh, I know that sound. It's very clear, but it feels disconnected, like there's no music in it.
Exactly. It was exhausting for him to produce, and honestly, it was exhausting for people to listen to. I told him, Hero, I want you to be lazier. I want you to stop respecting every word so much. I taught him about connected speech. In English, we don't treat words like separate bricks in a wall. We treat them like water flowing in a stream. We don't say, I am going to. We say, I'm gonna. We don't say, what do you think? We say, what do you think? When Hiro finally gave himself permission to swallow those sounds, everything changed. He didn't just sound more natural, he felt more confident because he wasn't fighting the language anymore.
That is such a powerful shift. It's like we're giving the listener permission to stop being a perfectionist. But David, let's push this a bit further. For our listeners who are reaching for that C1 level, the high level mastery, this laziness isn't just about cutting words short, right? It's about the rhythm, the stress timed nature of English.
Now we're getting into the deep water. You hit the nail on the head, Luna. English is a stress-timed language. This means we crunch the unimportant words, the articles, the prepositions, into tiny, insignificant sounds so that the content words can shine. We use something called the schwa sound. It's the most common sound in English, and it is the ultimate lazy sound. It's just a
Like the A in about or the E in the. It's almost like you're not even trying to move your mouth.
Precisely. If you try to pronounce every vowel clearly, you lose the cadence of the language. To reach a C1 level of nuance, you have to master the art of what we call phonetic reduction. You have to be comfortable with the fact that in a sentence like, I could have been there, the could have been sounds like coulda been. If you insist on saying could have been with full value on every syllable, you actually disrupt the cognitive load of the listener. They have to work harder to find your main point.
That's a revelation for me. We think we're being helpful by being clear, but we're actually making the listener's brain work overtime to find the stress words. So being lazy with the small words actually helps the listener focus on the big ideas. It's a paradox.
It is a total paradox, and it's where the aspirational part of English comes in. Think about the great leaders or the most charismatic speakers you know. They don't rush. They use these reductions to create a rhythmic flow that pulls you in. They aren't afraid of the messiness of the language. At a C1 level, you start to realize that English is a series of peaks and valleys. The peaks are your important words, your nouns and verbs, and the valleys are all those lazy reductions.
I love how we've moved from just slang into the actual architecture of the language. It's about understanding the hierarchy of information. When I speak to my friends in a high-level professional setting, I'm still using these lazy habits. I might say, I'm looking forward to the meeting. Even in a boardroom, that slight dropping of the G or the reduction of the vowel isn't seen as bad English. It's seen as native-level flow.
Right. It signals that you are so comfortable with the language that you don't need to over-enunciate. It shows a level of mastery where you are playing with the language rather than being controlled by it. It's about linguistic economy. Why spend 5 calories of energy on a word when you can spend 1 and get the same result? That saved energy can then be used for your tone, your emotion, and your connection with the person in front of you.
So, for our friends listening right now, especially those who are feeling that C1 climb is getting steep, don't look at these reductions as shortcuts. Look at them as efficiencies. You're not being a bad student, you're being a smart communicator. David, would you say that this is the biggest difference between someone who is stuck at intermediate and someone who breaks through to advanced?
Without a doubt, the intermediate speaker is still trying to follow every rule they learned in a textbook. The advanced speaker has learned which rules to bend in order to achieve a more natural, fluid resonance. They've moved from correctness to authenticity. And authenticity is always a little bit messy. It's relaxed. It's a bit lazy.
I love that so much. From correctness to authenticity. That is going to be my new mantra. We are really deep in the forest now, guys. If you're still with us, you are doing incredible. Your ears are adapting to this faster, more nuanced way of speaking. I've reached my favorite part of the show. It's time for the word tour. This is where we take those high-level concepts we just discussed and give you the actual tools to use in your next conversation. David, are you ready to give our listeners some aspirational vocabulary?
I am indeed. Let's start with the phrase I used earlier, the path of least resistance. This describes choosing the easiest way to do something. In English, our mouths naturally seek the path of least resistance by shortening words. For example, instead of fighting the grammar, he took the path of least resistance and used a simple idiom.
I love that. It sounds so much more sophisticated than just saying the easy way. My turn. Let's talk about cadence. Cadence is the rise and fall of the voice, the music of the language. When you master the lazy habit, your cadence becomes much more natural. You might say, his speaking cadence was so smooth, it was almost hypnotic.
Beautiful. Next, we have phonetic reduction. This is a bit technical, but it's what happens when we shrink a sound. Instead of going to, we have the reduction gonna. Use it like this. Mastering phonetic reduction is the secret sauce to sounding like a local.
Secret sauce. I love that one too. Let's add eloquent. People often think being lazy means being messy, but you can be lazy with your effort and still be eloquent, which means fluent, persuasive, and graceful. She gave an eloquent presentation without ever sounding like she was trying too hard.
And finally, let's use the verb to wing it. This is very lazy in spirit. It means to do something without preparation. I didn't study for the meeting, so I just had to wing it. It shows a high level of comfort with the language.
We are almost at the end of our climb today, and the fact that you are still here listening proves that you have the stamina for real fluency. But before we go, we want to hear from you. We've talked a lot about the lazy habit and letting the language flow naturally instead of forcing it.
My question for the community today is this. What is one specific English word or phrase that you have always tried to pronounce perfectly with every single letter, but now realize you could be a bit more relaxed with? Is it a contraction like would have, or maybe a tricky word where we usually hide some of the letters, like comfortable or different?
I love that. Go to our page and tell us, what is one word you are going to stop overworking? When you share your answer, you're helping this entire community realize that it's okay to let go. We can't wait to read your thoughts. You did it! You actually did it! We have reached the very peak of our linguistic mountain today, and you are still here with us. We've transitioned from simple B1 explanations all the way to some pretty dense, high-level C1 discussions regarding phonetic reduction and the hierarchy of information. I have to ask you honestly, did you stay until the very end? If you can hear my voice right now, the answer is yes, and I am so incredibly proud of your dedication and your stamina.
It really is a feat. You've proven to yourself today that you have the ear for high-level English.
Remember, moving forward, that the ultimate goal of language isn't to mimic a textbook. It's to facilitate human connection. Stay relaxed, stay curious, and yes, allow yourself to be a little bit lazy.
Exactly. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a climb with us. And please share this episode with one friend who you know is working way too hard on their English. Let's help them relax too. Until next time, keep listening, keep flowing, and keep being your amazing, authentic self. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.